Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. My name is Dave Corlett. I am Shaped By's business director and also the host of this, the second session on our agenda for Bring Your Own Bold 2024. Right now, I'm just going to ask you to imagine something. So you are part of the in-house creative team at a large corporate B2B business, probably quite a familiar position for many of you watching. You're in the office, you're grabbing some lunch from the cafe on the ground floor. There's two other people in the line in front of you and they're just chatting away, chatting with each other. And one of them says, hey, I love our new campaign. Which agency did that? And the other one responds, actually, do you know what? It wasn't an agency, it was our in-house team. And the first person looks quite surprised and say, oh, really? I had no idea we did that kind of stuff in-house. That little scenario illustrates one of the biggest internal challenges that in-house creative leaders face, demonstrating the value they bring to their organization, to colleagues inside of that organization, especially at big businesses where headcount is huge, teams work across multiple locations and people come and go all the time. So why is that so important, first of all? And then secondly, how exactly can you go about tackling the challenge? And our guest for this expert session is the perfect guest to find out from. Omar Fahmi is the head of design at Virgin Media O2 Business, a huge organization here in the UK that powers mobile and fixed connectivity solutions for over 22,000 business customers. Hey Omar, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hello, yeah, very well, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. Excited for Bring Your Own Bold. It's day one, we're here, finally. It's been a long time. So excited to get back into it, and so excited to have you with us here in this session. Now, you're responsible for building and managing Virgin Media O2 Business's in-house creative team. Before we get into how you champion your guys' work internally, I just wondered if you could start by telling us a little bit about your team in terms of what's the makeup, in terms of team size and skill set, and what projects do you guys typically work on?
Okay, so we're about 12 people. We've grown to that size in about 2.5 years or so. It was kind of myself and a copy guy, and kind of as we've grown within the role, we've grown this team to about, like I say, 12. We've got art workers, senior creatives, videographers, illustrators, and a lot of copy as well. So we have we've got long copy, short copy, headline, and bits like that. So we are kind of almost like this really little agency that sits in this team, where we're resilient and quick. We've only hired ex-agency designers to have that kind of pace as well as understanding of expectation of quality, to keep them innovative, and so that's something we'll get onto shortly. But yeah, we're working on digital assets, website updates, things really to keep the sales team able to sell products. So we're doing product pages on websites and constantly looking at UX, how our customers behave on our website, as well as interact with our LinkedIn and social, and kind of making refinements, creating ebooks and value. And then obviously there's the bigger stuff, which are large events for some of our wholesale partners. So we're creating, which are sector specific. So it's like justice, health, and turning up with like kind of big stands and really creating that emotional connection with customers. It kind of is at every kind of thought and process with us. So yeah.
Nice. And speaking of emotional connections, why do you make such a conscious effort to communicate with your internal audience, so people within the business? Why do you make such a conscious effort to communicate the value of your team's creative capabilities to those people?
So I think externally, it's really important for people within the business to understand that we are able. We have a team in-house that are very capable, and we want to promote our kind of skills. It's not us against agencies. I think we have, over the last year, have created a 40% cost saving in terms of bringing work in-house, but with a much higher quality. We know the strategy, we're closer to the products. In terms of workflow and speed, they have the ability to come and see us in an office or dial us really quickly and kind of turn things around really beautifully. So there's that element. I think it's really important for my team for recognition. I think with all designers, there's like an emotional aspect, probably more important than money. I think it's really motivating and inspiring and empowering when you get great feedback as a designer, right? I'm sure we all know that. So it's getting that recognition internally and and being known for something great, right? Like I said, that, you know, that conversation that you started it off is a real life scenario that's come from a discussion that we've had, and we've heard that kind of stuff all the time, and people think it's agency. And I think, well, you know, I think there was this perception that in-house aren't bringing that level, but like I said, we're all kind of, you know, we've got years of experience and we're all very trained in that, and we constantly being, you know, out there in the open and absorbing, so we're just as good.
Yeah. And in terms of the kind of particular teams or departments that you focus on communicating that value with, are there any in particular within your business?
Yeah, so sometimes it's even the wider marketing team. I think everyone's so kind of wrapped up in their own accounts or clients or sectors that they're trying to service that they kind of lose sight of really actually we could have a huge amount of value, and keeping those briefs quite loose. I think if they're prescribing, oh, make this or make that, then they're not getting the best out of us. So we do kind of sometimes come back with like response to briefs, just how you would as in an agency, and servicing those teams. And then you get the odd project from someone super senior who's like, we want this and we want it now. I mean, we still kind of deal with those and jump on those grenades, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it must really help with briefing as well, right? In terms of communicating exactly what you do and how well you do it, and, you know, maybe some slightly more unexpected projects that people don't realize that you work on. It must really help with future briefs as well coming through from those guys.
Completely. We have lots of wash ups and kind of lots of iterations, and, you know, we have almost like a bank of concepts, but instead of kind of, you know, where an agency would hold those bank concepts and probably not really use them, they are all relevant and they're always relevant. So we kind of revive ideas because it was good thinking. It was, you know, it was me and a copy director sat in a room generating ideas. The lights have gone out. But yeah, it's definitely something that we always improve on, and, you know, we get better briefs as a result because they work really closely with us.
Nice. So we kind of spoken about the reason for really consciously doing that kind of communication internally. Can you share a specific example of how you go about doing it?
So you know, on wrap up of a project, is that what you mean? Kind of just how we present these back?
No, I mean in terms of any specific kind of activity or any particular engagement tactics that you use to kind of communicate with your internal teams, your marketing teams, about kind of the work that you do. And
yeah, so we run quarterly innovation day. It's something that we've been doing for a few years now. So the innovation day essentially is held at an external location. So it's currently at the O2 Arena, and we use the O2 Blue Room. The venues got bigger every single year, and I think which is only testament to kind of how people enjoy them and like them. We invite kind of the wider marketing team as well as teams in consumer, or even you know, other people within the business who are interested in creativity. So we kind of bring them in. We talk about not just innovation and getting external speakers, where we set them a task. They're very interactive. I think kind of from our design experience, we want to kind of throw them in the deep end and really get them to think like a creative and just see that pure panic, which is really nice to have the other way around. But you know, we put them on the spot. They do a lot of things like we ran a session where you kind of got this piece of paper and you folded it up 6 times and created 30 squares, and we set a timer, and every 60 seconds they had to write a new idea. So we'd set a little brief and really fast-paced idea generation, and not to be precious. And if you don't fit a square, fine. And just by getting them to train and kind of start to think in this kind of fast pace would really then allow them, you know, from that page of 30 ideas, they then write one down and then elaborate on it further. And then we just go around the room and kind of pick those out. But, you know, I think these tasks that we set in these briefs are always super interactive, always fun, no pressure. Well, no pressure at the end, because I guess they don't really amount to anything. Sometimes we will use a live brief, and then we'll go, okay, so this is what that team, you know, who are working on health have said for this brief. Maybe we can pick some ideas, and we actually, you know, use it to stimulate on, you know, better ideas or bigger ideas, I'd say. The last innovation day we ran it. We set them a Spotify audio ad task, and they had to use their phones, and it was kind of all very makeshift and cowboy, but it was perfect. And we got groups of 5 to come up on stage, and, you know, hold their phones playing a bit of audio, and then someone would say something to the mic, and they wrote scripts. We'd spread the creative team amongst those teams, so we had like little snippets of people to inspire and motivate, and people really leave from those sessions thinking like, wow, okay, not only this is a new touch point and this is a new piece of media that we could use, or but the creative team really know what they're doing and what they're talking about, and we measure that in kind of various ways as well. But it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And just for our US audience or anyone outside the UK doesn't know about the O2 Arena, it's one of the biggest venues we have here in the UK. O2, part of Virgin Media O2 Business, very, very fortunate to have them sponsoring it, but obviously very fortunate to Omar to have the O2's Blue Room, which is an amazing space within the O2 Arena to go and do these.
I go up, Dave, on stage, and I'm there with a clicker, and like I've got the best back house media team who are running gigs for Rolling Stones and whoever, Taylor Swift. I think we've had to leave the Innovation Day. They always cut it short because they're like, right, we need the venue. And it's like, okay, so we're leaving for all of these kind of people coming to watch these concerts. But yeah, we've got good back of house support for our tech.
Nice. How long have you been running them? How long have they been going, the Innovation Days?
We've done Innovation Days for, I think it's about 3 years now. And we have one coming up on November 20th, I would say. And that's got a completely different kind of theme. We're talking about bravery. I think, some of the teams in the business, I think the appetite really for this is because it's very low risk appetite in our business, and trying to get these stakeholders to think beyond and think braver and really take our word that I think there's loads of big brands out there that lead via creative, and you can tell we have that impact. But yeah, I think we've got a lot of strong opinions from frustrated creatives higher up, and they kind of steer the work or kind of even stop them growing. So I think these Innovation Days really allow them to build that trust and get them to understand that we know what we're talking about, and we feel then empowered as a team. So
yeah, and does it also help, I suppose, with like personal relationships with your kind of wider marketing team as well, to actually get to know each other as people in these quite kind of creative workshopy kind of sessions? Is that a factor as well?
Completely. I think we are getting different designers on stage. It's kind of not just me leading them. I do get my senior designer and creative art workers to come and say a little piece and stand up and introduce themselves. And it is for that exposure. I want my team to be known, not me to be known. I want them, I think wider, that they're all kind of great at what they do, but I still have an element of mentoring. Kind of my background is education and lecturing and things like that. So I think I have this thing where I want to make my team and kind of lift them up and get people to recognize the skills that we have internally. Today we had a meeting about Meet the Creative Tribe. I think that's kind of like our internal name, and we're going to run some little sort of vox pop little ads internally where you could kind of meet or be introduced to an individual member of the team, and post those kind of within our kind of intranet, our workday place. But yeah, all in the name of getting to know us and building those relationships, as you say.
Nice. And in terms of, do you kind of do anything to measure like the impact or any feedback mechanisms or anything from these Innovation Days to kind of help you plan them and make them better each time?
We do. So we ask everyone kind of on leaving, they scan a QR code, and walking back to the train station, we kind of tee it up with, on your walk back to Greenwich station, could you just pop this? About 5 questions. And the questions are things like, what would you change? What stood out from the day? And to rate it with this sort of smiley scale, which again really gives you a good idea, indication of kind of how well the day's gone. But really, having to change venue and go from smaller rooms is testament to the idea that more people want to come, people are interested. Very recently, there was a discussion. I think there's these reviews quite often within our business where they go, what are we doing in the business that we don't like? What are we doing that we do like? And what do we not want to change? And the Innovation Day has fallen into what we don't want to change every single time. Again, so internally there's a lot of buy-in. People enjoy them, and I think it gets people together doing something that's creative and kind of out of their comfort. But again, it's entertaining. So
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, it sounds absolutely amazing. It's such a good idea. I really, really hope that people are kind of taking this idea and trying to work out whether it can or how it can work within their own businesses. Because obviously, as you know, like a lot of companies, especially in the States, are fully remote. I mean, my first thought is, wouldn't that be a great way of getting people together physically, in a physical environment?
That is a big factor to it. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I might have asked this already. I'm being a bit thick and not listening. But how often did you say that you do them?
We do them quarterly.
Okay, cool.
So it started off, we did one, and this came off the back of the merger. So as we merged, traditionally people from the O2 side were very agency focused. Virgin, we had an internal structure where we had an internal design team. Like I said, it was myself and agency support and some freelancers as well as copy. And one of the biggest drivers to grow the team was, firstly, it was a cost saving initiative and strategic, and they understood that we would know the brand and we owned all the ideas internally. So whereas the agencies were pitching concepts to us and we were saying, kind of account managers were saying yes or no, actually by owning those ideas and using agency for production was a much better kind of business model. But also we were getting it right first time. Like I said, we knew the product, we knew the brand, we knew the stakeholders, and we still pitch 3 concepts to this day, and get to develop 1 or 2 just how an agency would, and that practice probably is still really important. So we're not just saying take this, and actually it's both ways, because we could better improve ourselves when we know kind of their feedback. So yeah, that then grew this innovation day where we had doubters in the O2 arena when we merged. They said, well, we've never worked with an internal agency. Surely agencies are way more innovative. And we were like, no. And so we had that discussion and thought, okay, well, how can we bring this to life? How can we get them to see kind of the quality in-house? And like I said, we kind of were only hiring ex-agency, and I think one of our staff is in-house only and has been in kind of the in-house arenas in telecoms. But again, they bring something really special that we don't have in agency land, like a more relaxed, slower pace, and they keep us in check.
Yeah. Sometimes we could definitely deal with a more relaxed pace over here for sure. I know it's semantics a little bit, but do you refer to yourselves as the in-house agency of Virgin Media O2 Business? Is that what you're kind of known as internally, as the company's in-house agency?
Yeah. I mean, it is. I think by referring to ourselves as the in-house agency and marking up work with Homemade on it, we are kind of doing both. We don't want to seem too external, and we don't want to seem too integrated, but we're not a service where we are creating content to enhance the products, the products that we currently have. So they're working very much with the business, rather than like we're just this siloed thing. I mean, today we sat in a room. Sometimes we hire a space within the building that isn't in the open office plan, and it kind of allows us sometimes to all have catch up, talk a bit more loudly with a bit more music on. And I was going to say be slightly inappropriate, but I don't know if that's enough. But it definitely gets the team motivated and they kind of want to come face to face, and we produce better work. So
absolutely, yeah. And you obviously do these quarterly, but obviously you're producing work on a pretty regular basis. So are there any other ways that you kind of showcase your team's work on a kind of more ongoing basis than just the innovation days? And not just work, but the way that you do things.
Yeah, so we do. We created a newsletter a couple of years back, and it had a lot of traction. But I think within that newsletter embedded was a video where we talked about a campaign, and that actually had way more traction and interest than the email kind of newsletter. So now we definitely go into creating videos. So we do a short snippet, especially if it's a larger campaign. We try and inject a bit of personality. I guess like a lot of the videos that come out the business are either product based or it's senior people talking to kind of the business about financials and bits like that, or changes within the business. So they kind of sometimes can be what's the polite way of saying it? They're quite simple videos, and I think they're it's like face to camera. So we try to inject like a bit of personality, and I'd say not say acting as such. I don't want to make it cringy, but there is a bit of like ad lib, we're messing about, and then we go into kind of the campaign, and they really get to see that we aren't your average kind of corporate employees, and that we do kind of really try and bring that creativity within these short snippets. And we know it'll cut to talking heads and have a little bit that comes in and says name and job title at the bottom. So we kind of do conform to kind of some of the wider things. But yeah, we definitely use Workplace, which is the internal intranet, to get people to learn kind of about our new campaign and the work gone into involved and things like that. So we do that. We've got larger screens in the canteen, which sometimes play our videos on a loop, kind of to the annoyance of some of the other people. But it is pushing this idea that we are an internal agency that are producing, if not better than agency work.
Yeah, yeah. And what's the general reaction? I mean, I know that would be, you know, if I was someone that was on the receiving end of that, I'd find that super cool and interesting. But what's the general reaction? Do you get a decent reaction from that?
I mean, to the lady who manages all the traffic, bless her, she gets loads of requests for work, and we don't service kind of all the teams in the business. I think there's loads of things, you know, like you know, some of the artwork for vans and livery and things like that. I think they have other people who have always kind of done those jobs, and we might input on reviewing kind of the end product, but we're not producing this stuff. But the general reaction is positive, and everybody kind of wants to use us. And then we get, you know, we have this brand email address that we get requests in all the time, and we have these catch-ups where we review the inbox, and we kind of navigate, is this a project that needs to come into studio, or is this something that needs to be done externally? And we kind of weigh that up based on business impact, how much brand is involved, and is it going to need our guidance and feedback, and actually is this an opportunity for us to do something very creative, and if it is, we'll have it. But yeah, we make, I think the benefit really is, if showcasing this work is more work.
Yeah, nice. And on that subject, you know, I mentioned this little kind of playful scenario at the start of, you know, a creative team that's not getting the right kind of recognition for their work. Is there a particular kind of specific example of a project or a campaign that you guys worked on that did kind of have that real internal recognition as well as external?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind was when the merger happened. We were trying to look at kind of what both brands offer, and we was all about expecting more. And it was expecting more from your providers, from the people you work from the businesses, from the customers, etc. So it was this idea of expect more, and it was almost like a challenge. And we kind of put it out there as a statement, and we created loads of content, you know, launching the merger from a business perspective. And it won gold at the B2B Marketing Awards. Internally, it was really, really liked, and it was spoken about in the office, and I think it had, like, you know, a lot of stuff on Workplace and things like that. So it had like massive external recognition. Like I said, it was a gold B2B. I think there's a picture of me somewhere throwing confetti, smiling. I'm sure you'll find that on Google. But yeah, so there's that. I think if I go as far back as COVID, in lockdown, we printed this this yoga mat with almost like a manifesto of being namaste at home, and it was this thing of like telling our employees, you know, stay at home, don't worry. And it was all like, you know, we kind of did a photo shoot with people on laptops sat on yoga mats and following kind of almost like a Joe Wicks scenario. Actually, we were promoting this idea of well-being, and we sent out, I think it was 10,000 mats to 10,000 employees at the time. And yeah, it was all over social media. So externally, it was really well received, and then was picked up by kind of like local media of, you know, a brand and a business doing things right, which was, again, credit to some of the concepts. And I think another one that stands out is we recently did a photo shoot with Staffordshire Police. And we have a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of events. And how do we really promote to our justice customers that actually we are a good provider of networks and telco for police forces? And it was an idea that we connect their body cams to their cars, to their, you know, the contact centers. So we got to spend a couple of days with them, which was really lovely, and gather that insight. You know, they're looking for tech that just works. So how do we humanize the police? Unfortunately, sometimes they get a bad rep, and actually, can we showcase them as the people of who they are and have that emotional link? So what we did is we conducted a photo shoot. It was portraits. We got them to it was a little detail that kind of I thought on the day whilst we were taking the shoot. I thought it'd be really lovely to have them just sign their name and write their PCO number. And again, it would really pull out the human element. So we did this set of portraits of people in different ranks and different roles within the police, and got them to sign their name. You know, a lot of them obviously weren't as forthcoming with that information because of undercover work and things like that. So we changed kind of our direction and worked with people that were willing to do that. And again, it humanized it. It was brilliant. And we got, after a justice event, there was these huge portraits and this massive event, and you really could see that Virgin Media O2 business were engaging with their customers and knew what they wanted by taking that time. And we got, some police chiefs from different jurisdictions in the country saying how lovely, how amazing on Facebook and LinkedIn. So again, we got that external gratification from like, okay, it's really well recognized and taken. So again, there's, it's another opportunity where to be recognized externally and to exciting.
Very, very cool. Nice. Well, listen, Omar, we've got about 5 minutes left. We're having a few technical issues, I think, with the platform in terms of Q&A. So I've got my capable, trusty sidekick, Alex, sending them over to me via the joys of Slack. I think we've got one which is quite interesting, actually. I think we might have touched on this. For those who don't know, we run a podcast called The Changemakers, and Omar was kind enough to be a guest on The Changemakers a little while ago as well. We covered this a little bit on that, but for anyone who didn't hear it, which I assume is probably a lot of the audience, since you're tuning in for the first time, we talked a little bit about kind of the Virgin and O2 creative teams during that merger. Again, for those who don't know, Virgin Media and O2 are both huge consumer businesses over here in their own respective ways. But when the two of them merged, I imagine that was quite a kind of a tricky thing to unpick, and also to unite those two brands. I mean, they're quite distinct brands for a start. So were there any particular challenges around kind of merging those two creative?
There's definitely different ways that the businesses operate. And like I said, I think I was shown a spread of O2's work across the country, kind of all the touch points and banners and websites and apps and kind of stuff. And obviously the Virgin one I was already managing. And someone quite senior came up and said, "What's the difference between the two?" And I was like, am I brutal? Like, what's my position here? And I think O2 has such a strong brand, because it was agency focused and you have a multitude of agencies working on it. What's the one thing that you could have? And it just became different and iterative, and people aren't going through the signing off processes and skipping brand reviews and things like that. So I think it was semi-disjointed. I mean, it was all blue and it looked like O2 to the untrained eye. But as a designer, you start to pick out, okay, well, they're using this type of photography. It's very saturated. This one's illustration. This one's this. And there was so many treatments. And I looked at the Virgin one, and obviously something I've been managing for 2 years or so, and we had that coherent consistency. There wasn't a creative director on that sense and someone in consumer, but there were head of brands, and they still managed the O2 brand, and we still managed kind of the Virgin. But then when we merged, there was this overlapping and sharing of skills, and I was like, and all of a sudden we had 5 new agencies on the roster that I had to kind of look at and go through and go, okay, well, how are they serving us? What's the level of work? And essentially it's going through the weeds bit by bit and trying to create a consistent brand. So there are still 3 brands in operation for those who don't know. There's O2, there's Virgin Media, and there's Virgin Media O2 that sits in the middle. And they all are brilliant brands in their own right. Obviously the middle one is operating as a new company, new website and things like that. And a new brand state is still to be agreed. You think of a lot of big mergers like Curry's PC World, that joint and as a brand name physically, and then it dropped one and then had the other and then dropped the other. And they are, I think, by nature going to be messy until they work out who's bringing the revenue, where are the customers coming from, what's our direction of the business, who are our competitors, is it BT, Sky, etc. So loads of questions that are way beyond me. I think from a creative standpoint, we wanted to align and create a consistent brand execution across all 3. So O2 looked very much like O2, Virgin looked very like the Virgin, and they all have different brand guidelines, different typefaces, color palettes, and and you'd think that the colors from both were reflected in the middle brand, but they weren't. They obviously had to be tweaked to work well together, as a contrasting brand. So yeah, lots of challenges in kind of determining who's managing what, and brand process sign off and things like that. So we could
have a whole other conversation on that.
It's massive.
Really fascinated to know all of that.
It's massive.
But listen, Omar, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I'd actually love to get into that, to be honest. Maybe make it a hat trick of appearances with Shape By.
Yeah.
But for now, listen, thank you so much. That's really, really fascinating stuff. I really hope people are going to take, particularly the Innovation Days idea, and figure out how that could work for you. If you're really struggling with that internal engagement of championing the creativity that your team emits on a daily basis, I think that's super, super interesting. Thank you, Omar. Thank you very much. And thanks for joining us for session number 2 of Bring Your Own Bold. I'll be back